Our names may be forgotten, and our bones crumble to dust, but our deaths will echo through the millennia to come. Where's Hal, everybody, and welcome to another video, and welcome to another review video, my dear friends. And today, I have something absolutely delicious for you. And I have to preface this by saying that if you have been following European law for at least 3 months, you know that I have just only recently got into Warhammer 40k and Warhammer 30k when we are talking about the Horus Heresy. Now, despite being a fantasy and science fiction aficionado my entire life, despite studying Old English literature because I got to it through Tolkien, and I focused on the writings of Tolkien as well during my studies, despite writing multiple theses on the matter and editing multiple Tolkien encyclopedias in the Czech Republic, and despite loving the genre to death, I only got to Warhammer 3 months ago, and I have to say, well, better late than never. But I'm surprised I didn't manage to do that sooner. Because, quite honestly, this is one of the greatest world building I have ever experienced. I have ever read, and I have ever seen, and I have ever encountered. Now, it's a little bit of strange case, I think, because before the Horus Heresy, I only read the Eisenhorn Omnibus, which contains the books Xenos, Malleus, Hereticus, and Magos, plus 4 short stories by the author Dan Abnett, and that's it. Like, there was no other experience with Warhammer 40k, and then I delved straight into Warhammer 30k, the prequel, basically, that is set 10,000 years before the events of, the Inquisitors, Eisenhorn's adventures. It is basically how it all came to be. How the Emperor of Earth, the God Emperor of Earth on his golden throne on Terra, he protects, was betrayed by his son, quote-unquote, Horus, by one of the Primarchs, by the chief of the Primarchs, the genetically created super beings. It was about 20 of them, I believe, that he created, to help him to conquer and reconquer the galaxy, to create an intergalactic imperium, the Imperium of Men. So that, all the humans that got separated before live under one golden throne. Well, things don't always go as we plan them, do they? We know that Warhammer 40k is set in the grimdark future, the grimdark universe, where everything is about war against chaos, against warp, the gods and the demons and the devils of chaos, against which the Imperium fights with their Astartes, the Space Marines, and the Inquisition, which, me having read Eisenhorn as the first thing from Warhammer 40k, I will always have a very, very strong and very close relationship and feelings, very emotional feelings towards the Inquisition. But I have to say that after having read the Horus Heresy opening trilogy, Horus Rising, False Gods, and Galaxy in Flames, I have to say, I need to know more about the Astartes, and especially about the Space Marines in Warhammer 40k, 10,000 years after this, and into what they developed. So I'm currently reading The Flight of the Eisenstein, which is the 4th volume in the Horus Heresy series, and I'm so far enjoying it as much as I enjoyed this. Now, I was astonished and fascinated by the fact that the authors Dan Abnett, Graham McNeill, and Ben Counter were able to write a novel each of about 400 pages, 407 usually, but keep the style of writing the same. keep the pacing the same, keep the suspense the same, keep the action the same. Really, at many cases, in many an occasion, being able to keep you on the edge of the seat, so to speak, for the lack of a better term. It's really suspenseful, and very often you empathize and sympathize and feel for the characters. You fear for the characters. Nothing is certain. I mean, in this grim, dark future universe, anything can happen. And so it is not really certain that one character or another will survive. I mean, people who have read as much fantasy and science fiction as I have, we are used to it, right? I mean, our favorite characters, they are like annihilated from left to right, but still, it's written in a way that it still keeps you in full suspense. And so I can't say really which part I like the best. If it is Horus Rising, The False Gods, or Galaxy in Flames, I consider this to be one story, as much as I consider, for example, The Lord of the Rings to be one story, only that The Lord of the Rings was written as one book, only the publisher, made Tolkien divided it into three. But this was quite deliberately written as an opening trilogy, and then I think it was supposed to have 5 volumes, and then money kept flowing, so Games Workshop and the Black Library said, yep, we're going to make more and more and more. And I was 56 volumes plus the Siege of Terra. So yeah, I've got a lot in front of me. I love the protagonist, quite obviously. I mean, there are many of them, or several, but I would say that the two protagonists, the two chief characters, are obviously Garviel Loken and Horus himself. Now, we've got some remembrances, Keeler and Carcassy, and then, we've got other Astartes. We meet characters that fans know from before this. I think that Abaddon, his first appearance was before that. Quite obviously, the Primarchs, mainly Horus then. It was also cool to meet other Primarchs. Primarchs are something I'm very much interested in. This is why I started reading Lexicanum, which I've been told is very faithful and is very, very well made. It's very vast and very detailed, and the people who are running it are really doing a great job collecting material from books and novels, from audio dramas, from audiobooks, and from the White Dwarf magazine. And so I have been reading upon the Primarchs a lot, to that extent that I have even ordered and pre-ordered all the Joy Toy Primarchs that have come out and been announced so far. And so it's absolutely all in. I have to say that I also love, and this is very, if you want to write a good story, you need a good character development. You need to write a good story about intriguing characters. I always say that. You need good story, intriguing characters. Nothing needs to be original. Quite obviously, everybody is inspired by something, and famously, Warhammer has been inspired by a million, billion, gazillion things. But if you write the story in an intriguing and grasping way, if your characters are believable, even if they are in a secondary world, if you can sympathize and empathize with them, if you can fear for them, if you can love them, if you can hate them, if you can despise them, if you can adore them, you have written a good story. And this is precisely that. The character development and the character stories here are extraordinary. Now, quite obviously, Garviel Loken is kind of your typical goody two-shoes hero. This honorable Astartes, honorable space marine, Captain Garviel Loken, of the the sons of Horus, the Luna Wolves. And this is precisely what I wanted to say. The development of the reader's feelings towards characters changes, or at least mine did. So, for example, Horus and his space marines, his legions, which of course Horus, the War Master, and the Luna Wolves, absolutely adored them. Space marines of honor, space marines of justice, brave, strong, loyal warriors. This is precisely what you imagine when you're reading a heroic story, heroic fantasy and science fiction. All this having roots in, like, for example, old Germanic cultures, where the most important bond, the most important relationship in their society was the relationship between the Lord and his retainers. It is very much what the Primarchs and his Space Marines are, except they are really, really his sons as much as the Primarchs are the sons of the Emperor, aren't they? Because they are created from the gene seeds of the Primarchs. And so that is why all the Space Marines of, the diverse Primarchs share his character traits. Sometimes they even look like him, like little Horus Heresy. And so, at first you love Horus, this god or demigod walking on Earth, this glorious creature, this war master, this man who knows no fear, this man who is all about honor, bravery, serving the Emperor, bringing the galaxy together for him, along with his Lunar Wolves, with his Space Marines. Well, and then of course, it all gets effed up. For those of you who know Warhammer 40k, this is no spoiler, and I don't think it is a spoiler for anybody. When Horus turns and gets, into, the pact with the gods of the warp, most of his legion does as well. Really, not all of them, but quite famously, they divide into the loyalists and the traitor legions. And so then they write it in a way that you absolutely have to hate Horus, especially what he does, or after what he does at Istvan 3. Well, let me tell you, reading about Istvan 3, I was like, wow. So I can still be surprised what they can come up with in literature. So I'm very glad that they managed to surprise me at the originality in about the way an entire planet can be annihilated. So what I wanted to say is I absolutely love pre-heresy Horus and Lunar Wolves, but one must absolutely despise after fall Horus and the sons of Horus. So I could talk about this for a long time. I just have to say, just read this. It is 100% recommend. I don't even think you need to have any prior knowledge of the world of Warhammer 40k. I did have only minor knowledge. I knew next to nothing. I still know next to nothing. All I read before this was the Eisenhorn Omnibus, and it is absolutely 100% understandable, and they explain everything. So when people ask me, and will ask me in the future, so where do I start with Warhammer 40k? I'll just tell them Horus Heresy, at least the opening trilogy. So let me know in the comments down below what you think, my dear friends. That'll be all. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Emperor protects.